And we're back in my garage. So today we're going to be installing a mini split, and today's video is actually sponsored by Tosot. They went ahead and sent me one of their 1-ton mini splits. So let's go ahead and get into it. So here we go. Alright, so we're going to install this mini split. This is a DIY kit, you can do it yourself. If you're a homeowner, you're not an HVAC technician, you can do this yourself, and I'm going to show you how. So the first rule of installing a mini split is read the instruction manual. I know you're watching this video, but read the instruction manual, skim through it, just get an idea of what's going on. We're going to go through it, but it's a good idea to be familiar with it at least. As you can see, I'm a professional technician, so I'm going to show you how to properly install this thing yourself. There are a lot of tools you're going to need, so let's show you which tools you need.
Required tools you're going to need is a set of refrigeration gauges, mini split adapters, level, wire strippers with crimp tools, vacuum pump screwdrivers, electric drill, 2.5-inch hole saw, open-ended torque wrench, and adjustable box wrench.
I would recommend that you call an electrician to have them run your dedicated circuit with the disconnect box, and then go from there. So we're donating this unit over to my good friend at Out of the Box Arts.
Out of the Box Arts is a creative space founded by Melinda Martinez, an experienced music and art educator passionate about bringing the arts to all children. Through engaging classes, workshops, and camps, they inspire creativity, build confidence, and encourage self-expression. OTB Arts' mission extends beyond teaching. They also provide sponsorships to ensure that children in underserved communities have access to the transformative power of music and art. For more information, make sure you check out the links below.
Let's go ahead and go on site. We're going to go ahead and get this thing installed, so let's go. So we're on location. We just got to our install site. Our unit is going to go right about there, I would say. Somewhere right there. Hopefully it's centered, but we got to drill a hole through the wall going all the way to the outside. However, there may be studs, so we're going to use a stud finder. I can't speak, sorry. We're going to use a stud finder to find our stud. That way we don't, try to cut a hole through the stud, because that's just not going to work. We need to get in between the studs. First things first, we're going to determine our location, get our plate mounted, get our hole drilled, and go from there. Alrighty then, we got this thing opened up. See what she comes with. All right, here's our remote control. We'll set that aside somewhere. Okay, so here's all our stuff. Ooh, look at this, comes with cable. Yeah, so this is our comm cable. So this is going between the outdoor and the indoor unit. Now I gotta say, one thing, this is nice. They got fork connectors on here, already pre-installed. That's awesome. So I always use ring connectors, to be honest, but these will work just fine. They just have better contact and you don't have comm issues. So that's a nice little touch. So thanks. That saves me a bunch of time. I don't have to put new connectors on. It's nice. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Okay, we got a little sleeve for insulation. And here is our little bundle. In this bundle, you're gonna find your instruction manual. Looks like batteries for the remote. And then just like your overall accessories for the unit. So yeah, this right here is, you can mount this to the wall so you can hang your remote control. Comes with some screws for that. Put that in there. Looks like we got some mounting screws as well. Oh, that's nice, an extra flare nut to it. Oh wow, look at that. I wonder if we have to install the flare nuts. Oh yeah, we do. That's nice. Now, yeah, you're gonna see me do something a little different than the other guys, but we'll get to that when we get there. All right, so yeah. So in this bundle, we have our user manual. We have a little app control quick guide, 2 AAA batteries, the nuts, some mounting screws, and some anchors, the holder for the remote control, which I'll put with the controller so that doesn't get lost. All right, so let's take a look. So one of the most important things you can do as a professional, and I am a professional, is I always read the manual. So we're gonna go ahead and look through it. What I wanna look for is clearances. I wanna make sure we don't put it too close to the wall and go from there. So I'm gonna look at this. And then it's nice here, like this install manual is pretty nice. It shows you a list of everything you should have gotten. So that's pretty good. Yeah. So, but yeah, it shows you required tools. So you need a bubble level, electric drill, wire stripper, crimp tool, screwdriver, standard wrench, open end torque wrench. Very important you use a torque wrench. It's another thing the other videos don't show is using a torque wrench. Don't eyeball it. Use a torque wrench. They're cheap. You can go to Harbor Freight and get one. They're actually pretty decent. You're going to want to drill with a 2.2 or 2.8 inch hole saw and a vacuum pump. And they forgot to tell you need gauges or hoses or whatever. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and just look this over and then we'll be right back. All right, so first things first was we're going to want to remove the mounting plate, which is this thing on the back. There's one screw holding it on right there. So it's a Phillips screw, so we're going to take that off. You're not going to need to put this back on, so if you want to lose the screw, you can, or save it for another day. All right, so we got that screw off, and that's basically just a shipping screw. There's two clips, one here and one here. You just pop this. You see the little gray thing in there? You just push it in, pops out. Same thing to the other side. This comes out. These are hooks that hook into this thing. Very important for when we hang this. Okay, so we do have clearances. We want a minimum, looks like 6 inches left, right, and top. And then we want 98.5 inches below. Not a problem. But yeah, so 6 inches from the ceiling. It's very important that you have these clearances because it needs to be able to suck air from the top. And if you do that, you're going to restrict the airflow, and that's just going to cause issues. We're going to go ahead and get this mounted. We're going to use a single screw here, and we're going to put that in the middle just to kind of hold it in place. That way we can measure where our hole's gonna go. Center of this guy looks to be right over that plug, so that's where we're gonna shoot for. We're gonna go ahead and put our thing where we think it's gonna go. And this is just a mock-up here. We want at least 6 inches from the top. I'm gonna give it 6.5 just so we have a little bit extra. And then we're gonna go ahead and put in our first screw here just to kind of hold this in place while we measure. It's okay, we might end up moving this. So 4 inches. So our hole's gonna be right about here, so let's make sure that there's no stud right there. So we're gonna take our stud finder, and we don't wanna see any red lights. All right, so our stud's over here. Cool. Make sure that there's no horizontal studs. Yeah, we are stud free. So that's where our unit's gonna go. So let's go ahead and get a level. We'll level this out, and then we'll go from there. And then see if we can find some studs. If I can, I would like to get some of these screws in the studs. So it looks like there's a stud there, so I don't think we're gonna be lucky and get any studs on this. Oh yeah, we'll get at least one. Since we're in an art studio, we'll go ahead and use a color pencil to make our marks. All right, so yeah, there's a stud over here which we can't use. And then there's a stud right here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get this as level as possible. Right about there. And we're gonna go ahead and drill our hole in right there. I like to get it near the top just because, oops. Because all the weight's gonna be hanging on these hooks. All right, and you're asking me, well, why did you do just that? Well, I'm actually using the screw as a drill hole. So I'll put this way I know where to put the anchors in. And then we'll do another one right here. Yeah, so it's very important we get this level because we want it to drain properly, which in this case it drains to the left. So we want our water to be able to make it to the hose, and then it's gonna go across here and then through our hole. Whatever you do, don't use the anchors that it comes with. We're gonna use our own anchors. Alrighty, so I just got back from the hardware store. The anchors that this comes with are terrible. Don't use them. Go to the hardware store and get these. These are the ones that I like to get. These are the drywall anchors, self-drilling. They're made out of metal. This is what I usually use. See, that's what they look like. So yeah, those plastic anchors that it comes with, they basically, they don't really grab on very well. And when you put too much pressure, they get pushed into the wall. So yeah, these are much better. You can see there, and they're made out of zinc. So much better. So let's go ahead and get this thing mounted. Okay, so we're gonna put in our new anchors, which should, there we go. And these just screw in like with a Phillip head. But these things will really grab. I like using these. This is what I use when I'm doing a professional installation. And they hang on there. They don't go nowhere. And they don't break. And it's actually screwing into the drywall, so it's a much better mounting system. And we want to go ahead and make sure that everything is still level. There we go. And I am now using 1/4 inch screws. This is typically what we use. Still level, good. And then we'll get our 1 screw that's in the actual stud. Nice. We finally got our mounting plate on. So now we want to go ahead and cut our hole. And we want that to be about 4 inches away. Right there. And again, one last time, make sure there's no stud there. Yeah, we should be good. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a pilot hole just to make sure we don't hit anything. And then keep in mind when you are drilling this hole, you want to kind of go at downward angle. All right, we're through. Let's go see where our hole is. All right, perfect. That's where our hole is. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there, right in the middle. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is all the connections are actually on the right side. So we're going to come down. It'll come out of our conduit and then come over and then in. Okay, so I'm using a 2.5 inch hole saw. This one's actually made by Diablo. I like these because they have the quick release. See, look at that. Pops right off. You can swap sizes real quick. Also comes with a screw that you can put on other brands. So you can also put them on. All right, so let's go ahead and do our hole. And then again, we want to be going at a downward angle. All right, we're through. All right, cool. And as you can see, I don't know if this shows up on cam, but it's at a downward angle. That's very important for your drain line. If you do straight, your drain line, water doesn't go downhill, it goes uphill. Or I'm sorry, it doesn't go uphill, it goes downhill. But yeah, you can see here, we're at a downward angle. Now we got that done, we are gonna have our drain line, or I'm sorry, our refrigerant lines coming straight out on this side. So we're gonna slowly and carefully bend this out. Now, here's where you're gonna notice that I do it differently from the other videos. You'll see that they connect the line set and run the entire line set through that hole. That's dumb. I don't know, that's just a lot of extra work, especially if you're doing this by yourself like I am, because then you need somebody inside to feed it, or you could, you know, potentially kink the unit. What we're gonna do is we'll have this pointed out, we'll poke this thing through the hole, make our connection outside. And then, because we're gonna have to shorten this line set because it's gonna be way too long, more than likely. So, anyway, we're gonna have to remove these caps. Now apparently these caps are pressurized. I believe they have nitrogen in them. So you just push on it like that on this black one here. If you hear that psh noise, that means there's pressure in there. It means there's no leak. If you do this and nothing comes out, send it back. So that's probably gonna be nitrogen in there. And if for some reason you're making your line set come out the side, that's what this is a knockout. You just stick it through that hole. See how much easier that is instead of having to run the entire thing. All right. There we go. Unit is mounted. We don't want to get that all the way clipped on because I still need to connect that drain line. So that's pretty much there mounted. So yeah, that part's the easy part. So now we just need to run the electrical through and all that. And keep in mind, when you have them hooked on the top, you do have the ability of leaning it up and it'll hold it. Usually I'll put something in here to kind of hold it up so I can work on it. And then yeah, so we're gonna run our drain straight through that hole right there. And then we should be good. And one of the things I like to do is I always test the drain. I'll pour some water in the pan, make sure it actually drains out. One of the biggest issues we have on these installations is drain lines. Water goes down, not up. And a lot of installers can't figure that out. Also, you get your line sets not being insulated properly. That's why you have that insulation. I'm gonna make all my insulation connections outside. In some other videos, they wrap the entire thing with tape. It's totally unnecessary because that Rubatex that's covering that line, that's the insulation there. That tape is to protect it from UV, from what I can understand. We're gonna be putting a cover over it so it looks nice. So we're not gonna need it, it'll be protected. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on as far as the line set. Alrighty, so we're outside here. We can see, here's our hole. So this is where our stuff comes in. We're gonna bend it downward. And this is our line set cover, which will run like that. And man, did we luck out, man. That's like right in the middle of this panel. So that makes it look nice. So usually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually install this backing part on here first, and then we'll go from there. But we're gonna actually be putting this on a frame. So it's gonna be mounted up against this wall right here. So we got this thing on Amazon. This was about 36 bucks, I believe. And it holds like 300 pounds, something like that. Oh, 396 pounds. Our unit only weighs like 80 something pounds. It's definitely under 100 pounds. So this is probably a little overkill, but that's fine. I'd rather it be durable. So we're gonna lift it up off the ground. We do get snow here, so we don't want this thing getting buried in snow. You can pour a concrete slab and then put it on pump ups, or you can even get a KD pad, which is basically a plastic pad. You just pop that down in there. You want to put it on some kind of risers to lift it up so it doesn't get buried in snow if it snows where you are. If it doesn't, then it doesn't really matter. You can just put it on the pad, but you want a nice flat level surface. So we're gonna go ahead and get this mounted so we kind of have an idea of where we're going with it, and we'll go from there. All right, so we got our bracket here. So it comes with 3 pieces. These 2 here are the legs, and this part is what you mount to the wall. And then these fold open like that, and then you just slide these into place like that. So that's pretty nice. And the nice thing too is this guy has a built-in level, which is awesome because I totally forgot to bring my big level. But yeah, see, it's just like that, pretty easy. Okay, so we got her all installed. Looks like my camera died on me. She is now mounted to the wall. Okay, so looking at this thing, it actually has a pan heater already, which is really nice. Some other brands you have to manually install them, which is really annoying, so they never get installed. Thing springs leaks, so this is nice. I'm actually quite surprised at the quality of the unit so far. I mean, obviously I haven't ran it, but yeah, it's looking good so far. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get our line set all taken care of. So we got our line sets here. This is our extension hose for our drain line. Now these look like they are pre-flared. Let's see how the quality is. So in my experience, never use the included flare, always make your own. And you wanna use the nuts that are on the unit. So there are some nuts here. As you can see here, we're gonna reuse these. So we're gonna actually chop all of these nuts off because I'm pretty sure that Tosot doesn't manufacture this line set. So we don't know how good quality these are. So yeah, and you can use these if you want to risk it, but you know it's probably gonna leak. So let's see how our flares look. Wow, I'm actually quite surprised. These flares are pretty good. It's nuts. Like, I can't believe how good this is. I mean, this is exactly what I would buy, but the flare's actually decent. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's decent. It's good. It's a good flare. Let's see what the quarter line looks like. That is an excellent flare too. I don't know if that shows up. Can you see that? I don't know if it's, I don't know. Can you see here? Look at that. I can't believe how good these flares are. And this is the exact same nut that's on the unit. So I'm going to reuse this. I'm only going to reflare one side because I'm pretty sure this line set's going to be too long. So we're going to shorten her up. But wow. I am pleasantly surprised. Why? So you don't even, like, you guys don't understand what's going on through my head right now, but like I said, I install the main brands. We buy these line sets much longer, obviously, probably for more money, and they come with nuts and flares and they suck. I cut them off every single time and reflare them because they're terrible. Like, this is actually round, and I don't know why they can't. Like, I've had some where half the flare is missing. I don't even like look at them, and then you don't know what nut they used, so it doesn't always fit on there. And then even if the flare is good, it leaks. I can't believe it. I'm just in shock. You don't even know. You guys don't even know. I've been doing this for how many years, installing a bunch of mini splits, all the name brands, and the line sets that I buy through a professional distributor are crap. We need to get our stuff together, man. Seriously. That is a perfect flare. I don't think I could do any better than that. In fact, it's probably nicer than what I would be doing because this is done by a machine. Deburred and everything. Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and connect this extension hose and throw it through the hole. Yeah, that's nice and tight. I'm like just tripping out on the quality of this. Like, this is really nice. I just can't believe how nice this is for the price too. I'll do a 1-year review just to see if there was any issues with it. But yeah, I mean, the quality is just as good. You know, I mean, the stuff that I do, I mean, it's in a commercial setting, so I mean, it runs all the time, but they break down all the time. They're terrible. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a few little things that I don't like about this. Like, for instance, the mounting plate's small. I prefer the bigger one. The bigger brands have like little guides that help you, you know, figure out where everything goes. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm gonna go ahead and thread the drain line hose through the hole. I'm gonna try to see if I can get it on the bottom. Make sure that it's good. All right, cool. Then we're gonna go ahead and run the electrical wire through. This is the electrical panel right here. Take the one screw out, pop this guy out like that, and then we're gonna thread our wire through there. So we need to take this screw out too. This basically just holds the wire in place. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and thread that power cable, communication cable back in and get it out the wall. So yeah, this is looking like it's 14 gauge. Okay, so we go ahead and shove our wire here through there. There is our wire. Our wire is way too long, so we're gonna have to really pull it in there. Push all that way through like that. All right, so what we're gonna do, we have N for neutral, 2 and 3. So we're gonna just do white, black, and red. We got this piece right here, right? We're gonna slide that right under there. We wanna make sure that it is level. So we have our level here. I'm gonna use some 1/4" screws here to go ahead and attach that. Line it up. Okay. Sure. It is not level. Sweet. Now we need to measure where we're going to cut it off. So I'm going to cut it off right about here. Cool. Now what we need to do is we need to take our line set here and we're going to kind of just bend it in downward carefully. I'm not going to go all the way because I still need to make my connections and I want room to do that. So we need to stretch out our line sets now. Now that we got that all set, and then just so you know, this thing, once it's all done, it sits on there like that. And you just put screws on that there. So, yeah. It'll look like that when it's all done. All nice and pretty. Okay, so we got our 2 line sets here. Make sure you have the plugs in there. You don't want to get anything stuck inside. So, this is really simple. You just want to go ahead and straighten out part of it here like that. And then you just step on it and unroll it like that. Now we're going to do the 1/4". Now this one is much smaller, so way easier to do. Don't put all your weight on this thing because it will bend a dent in it. Okay, so to make these connections, you're gonna need an adjustable wrench and you're gonna need a torque wrench. Very important you use a torque wrench. I know a lot of videos show that they're not doing it, but if you don't do that, you run the risk of a leak. And typically what I would do is I would pressurize this. Once I have all my connections, I pressurize with nitrogen. You might not have the ability to do that. Don't pull a vacuum and put bubbles on it because you're creating a negative pressure inside, so it's going to suck the bubbles in if you have a leak. I've seen videos where they're leak testing under a vacuum. That's just dumb. Don't do that. That doesn't do anything. Because if there is a leak, it's just going to suck it inside the system, contaminate your system, and you're not going to see bubbles because it's sucking in, not pushing out. So don't do that. If you can get your hands on some nitrogen, pressure it up with nitrogen. I have a digital torque wrench. An analog one will be fine. You can pick these up at Harbor Freight. They're pretty affordable. And torque wrenches are great. You can use them for all kinds of things. If you like to ride bikes like I do, you'll probably already have one. So anyway, we're gonna open up our manual here and we need to see what our torque specs are. So we go to the refrigerant piping section, which is somewhere. Did I pass it? Oh, here it is. So you can see here we have 3/8 and 1/4". So we have 1/4, we have foot-pounds, so it's 12 to 14 pounds, foot-pounds of torque, or you can do Newton meters, which is 15 to 20. All right, and then our 3/8, which is this one here, for that we're going to use 30 to 40 Newton meters. The other thing you're going to need is some nylon glue. This is basically just a sealant. You can use POE oil, some kind of oil, but you want to put something on there. Not only does it act as an additional sealant, but it also acts as a lubricant. So we want to go ahead and remove our caps. And I'm actually going to use the flares. We have our 1/4 inch one right here. And what we want to do is we want to take some of this nylog and we're going to put it right here on the actual head of the flare, not on the threads, right there, because that's our sealing point. And you just need a little bit. Put a good dab on there and then spread it around all the way on the inside. Just right there on the cup. You don't need a lot, and if you get it inside, that's fine. It's designed for this stuff. It's not going to hurt anything. What you're going to do is we'll start with our 1/4 inch. We'll pull the plug out of there. One of the things I like to do is I pull the nut back. I'm going to inspect my flare just to make sure. Sometimes one might be good, but then the other one. And then we're going to place it right up on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand tighten the nut until I can't spin it no more with my fingers. And this is just going to kind of hold things in place. All right, cool, you got it. We're going to go ahead and do our 3/8 line. We're going to pull the plug out. We're going to inspect our flare, which is immaculate. Seriously, I'm just still dumbfounded by the fact that this flare is like perfect. So Tosot, whoever your line set manufacturer is, kudos, man, because when I have to order these things through our local parts house, the flares are crap. I got to cut them off every single time, like never fail. Okay, same deal. We're going to hand tighten it until we can't spin it no more. That's just going to kind of hold everything in place. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and torque it down. So we're using a backup wrench, because if you don't, you'll twist the copper, either kinking it or ripping it off completely. We're going to do Newton meter, so we want 15 to 20 on our 1/4. So I have it set to 16. All right. Like I said, you don't have to use a digital. Digitals are nice, but you know, if you're not doing this all the time, it's not necessary. And make sure you grab that at the end, and you want to get a good, nice arc on that thing. All right. Okay. All right, so we are to spec. Now we're going to do our 3/8 line, which is going to be 30 to 40 Newton meters. So we'll go ahead and change that. So we'll do 35 actually. Yeah, get it smack in the middle. We want a backup wrench. And go ahead and grab that there, like that. And we need to adjust this guy like that. Okay, and then I do again to confirm. Sweet. And that's that. So now we have to insulate this part here, and that's really nice. This Tosot actually gave us some extra insulation to do that. All right, so we want to just cut this in half so we can get that onto the pipe. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and insulate this. I'm going to use some duct tape just to tape that on, which will be perfectly fine, because basically this is just a vapor barrier to keep it from condensating. And honestly, if it does condensate outside, I'm not too worried about it. So, and also you're going to notice that I'm not wrapping this entire line set with tape, which is this stuff here. Reason being is I'm going to cover this up with a line set cover, as you know, with the line hide, as you call it. Also, the problem with that is if you have a leak or something, that means you got to take it all off to get to your leak, which is going to more than likely be at your flare connections. So that means you would have to unwrap the entire line set. And if you call me out there to fix your Tosot unit, I'm going to be pretty upset if I have to do all that. So I mean, it's bad enough that I got to do all this, but see what I'm doing is I will fold this tip here so there's a little flap. So if I ever need to, you know, get into that connection point, I can just unwrap it very easily. And there you go, that's it. So now that we got that all done, I'm gonna go ahead and start pushing this into the line set, or I'm sorry, into the cover. So be very careful that you don't bend it. Well, I mean, be very careful that you don't kink it. So that's what we want to avoid, is kinking the line. We got our line set pretty much on there. And and kind of shoved in here. So that's kind of what we're going for. Now I haven't zip tied this stuff down yet because we're not done. So what I need to do now is, you can see our line set is way too long. So what a lot of you guys, what a lot of DIYers will do is they'll just kind of coil it up and shove it behind the unit. I'm not doing that because I got all the stuff to do it. So yeah, keep in mind you do need a lot of tools. You can get a lot of cheap stuff if this is like a one time, but I would recommend shortening the line. When you do the loop-de-loop, I don't know if that's good for oil return, and that puts a lot of strain on the compressor because oil has to be able to flow between the two units. They may have factored that in. Maybe they upsized the compressor to, you know, do that because it is considered a DIY unit. But yeah, I'm going to cut it to size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it behind the unit, and then we will connect her right there. So, and then make note, we want to have our big line on the bottom, our small line on the top. So that's obviously going to be too long, but that's okay because that's what I'm going for. So we'll start with the bottom one first. Since I've chopped those off, I'm going to use the nuts that are on the unit. So to do this part, we're going to have to re-flare it since I've chopped off the existing flares. So you'll need a tubing cutter. You'll also need a flaring tool or flaring block. All right, so, and then you're going to need some of this, and you'll need your torque wrench. And I'm going to use these nuts since that's what's on the unit. Honestly, the nuts that are on the line set are exactly the same, so I think Tosot might actually make their own line sets, or they're really good about speccing whoever makes it for them and are telling them, hey, use this, which all you big brands should get in the habit of. So yeah, so apparently my phone battery died, so yeah. And then this thing wasn't recording. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the flares again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create a flare. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to need the flaring block, right? We'll need a deburring tool, then we'll need the nut. When you've cut this, there's going to be a little burr right here on the actual pipe here. I'm trying to show you that. I don't know if you can see that. It's right there on the edge. And if we were to flare this with that, it's just going to cause it to split. So we need to get rid of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this thing here. And what we do is we stick that in there like that. And then the edge of this is going to peel that off. Now, when you do this, there's going to be debris. So you want to point it at a downward angle. I'm going to keep it straight so you can see what I'm doing. But you want to keep it at a downward angle like this. That way the stuff will fall out. Okay? But this is what it looks like. And you can see all that stuff coming out right there. See it? So that's why we got to point it down so it falls out, because you don't want that stuff getting into the system. Okay. Okay, and as you can see now, it's a lot better, right? So it could still actually do a little more, but oops. All right, cool. So that's all done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our flaring block. We're going to find the size. Now in this case, I'm using 3/8, so that's going to be this hole here. And what you're going to do is you're going to slide this thing all the way to the back and open it up. We're going to take our 3/8 and put it in there. And this one's got a stop on it, so we basically want to line it up with the stop. Just like that. Okay, and then we're going to squeeze it. Okay, we're going to move our stop out of the way. Now, the one thing I almost forgot, before you put this on, you want to go ahead and put the nut on. Don't forget to put the nut on like I just almost did. It really sucks because then you have to cut it off and do it all over again. So don't forget to put the nut on. All right, so again, we're going to put this on the 3/8 line. We're going to line it up to our stop. There we go. Then we're going to go ahead and line this back up with that. All right, then we're going to lock it down, and this is going to basically pinch it. This was the issue I was having with the quarter line, is basically this thing will come down on it and you know, create the flare, but the pipe actually would slide out, so that's why I had to add tape. But usually you don't have to do that. I've actually never seen that happen. But we're going to go ahead and screw this, and then you're going to feel that it's actually hitting the metal, and you're going to go ahead and turn it slowly like so.
Okay, and you might want to practice this on some scrap a couple times just to make sure you do it right. There is a technique and a skill to it. So I would, if you are going to do this, maybe get some scrap and do it a couple times first before you actually do the real one. Okay, and then you can see this one actually pops. So that means we need to reverse, and you're still going to feel tension reversing, which is fine because it's still bending it. And we'll do it slowly, and then once we feel that it's no longer touching, you can just unscrew it with your finger like that till you're all the way at the top. Then we're going to unscrew this like that. We're going to slide this back, and then we will open this up, and you can see we now have a flare. And that is a good flare, and you want to go ahead and slide your nut over it and make sure that it works. So yeah, we're good to go.
All right, so we got our line set cover all taken care of. Now what we're going to do is, since we have all of our connections done, we're going to pressure test this with nitrogen. Now this is something you probably won't be able to do on your own. If you can get some nitrogen, then yeah, it's good, but make sure you get dry nitrogen. Basically there's no moisture. It's a refrigerant grade nitrogen if you're going to do that. That's the best way to pressure test to make sure there's no leaks. If you've seen other videos, they'll pull a vacuum and then they put soapy bubbles on there. If you pull a vacuum, you're creating a negative pressure in that line. So if you put soapy bubbles and you have a leak, it's not going to blow out, it's going to suck it in. So you're not going to see bubbles. So not only are you going to not find a leak if there is a leak, but you're going to contaminate your system and have problems, because you definitely don't want that stuff inside the lines. What you need to do is you need to pressurize it above atmospheric pressure. That way, if there is a leak, the pressure inside will be greater than the pressure outside, so it'll come out, which will push the soapy bubbles out, which will create bubbles. I'll show you another way you can check to see if you have a leak by pulling a vacuum. But again, you're going to need a micron gauge. You'll see a lot of these guys doing it through a gauge. That doesn't work. We're going to go ahead and get some nitrogen in this thing, and then while it's holding, assuming there's no leaks, we will go ahead and hook up our electrical. All right, so we got our nitrogen. I'm using these old piece of junk, what do you call it, gauges, just to show you how you would do this, because I usually use my digitals. And anyway, I'm going to use this blue one here. We're going to attach it to there, but the problem is it's a 5/16, but the hoses are 1/4 inch, so you're going to need an adapter of some sort. I have this. This is actually a Schrader core removal tool. I'm going to do this because I'm going to take the Schrader core out so it vacuums faster. All right, so we're going to take the Schrader core out, and this is going to allow us to pull a vacuum much faster and also inject the nitrogen much faster. That's what it looks like. And when we're done, we'll have to put it back, but we're going to have to use the Schrader core remover to do that. So this is my adapter. And you're going to notice my tools look a lot different from other videos because I use professional tools, because this is what I do for a living. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to get all these crazy tools like I have. All right, so I'm going to put about 300 PSI in there. Idea is it will hold that pressure. And I know you can hear that hiss, and that's because this stupid thing is leaking. Like I said, I don't use these gauges on a regular basis. I do hear something leaking. Yeah, it was this flare. So it's this one right here that's leaking. I was a little worried about that one. That's the one that I had difficulty with. This is why we pressure test. I ended up having a leak on my little line. So I'm going to reflare it. Now this line, this is where my camera died. Basically the pipe kept slipping out of this. So I put a piece of tape here just to give it a little bit, make it a little thicker so it'll actually grab it, because it's a little bit thinner than it's supposed to be. So yeah, that caused quite a bit of an issue. So we're going to reflare this again. I think this nut's a little bit too big. This was the one that was on the unit, so I'm using the one that came on the line set, but you can see here it wiggles a little bit, so I'm concerned that it's just not hitting the flare properly. So we're going to reflare this. So here's what we're doing was we put the tape there, that way it has something to grip to. We're going to go into our 1/4 inch here, and I'm going to use my stopper here, but I'm actually going to make it go a little past because I want the cup to be a little bit bigger, because I think it just wasn't quite big enough. And again, when you're doing this, don't forget to put the nut on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pinch it there. We're going to put it on our 1/4 setting, and we're going to crank this down. That way it doesn't slip. And then we turn this slowly until it pops. And again, don't forget to put the nut on before you start doing this. Okay, she popped. Now slowly unscrew it, and it's still stretching it, so go slow. Loosen this, and we should have a good flare. Okay, so that flare looks good. We're going to take our tape off. So we got our flare made. We're We're gonna put a little bit of nylog back on this, and we're gonna pop this back on there. Okay, and hand tighten, get it into place. And then we're gonna go ahead and torque it to spec, which is 16 Newton meters. Let's go ahead and pressurize this with nitro. All right, so we got her under nitrogen pressure. It's about 350 PSI. So the idea is we want it to hold. As long as it doesn't move down, then we know it's good. We're gonna go ahead and do the electrical while that's holding. If the pressure holds, then we should be good. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop these two. We can take this off, so I'm gonna take this off so it'll bend it. Okay, so we basically put holes in these and just do that. And then that will help us pop it. Just makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so we'll go ahead and reattach this back on. All right, so we're gonna use this instead of this. This does come with the wires, but yeah, I'm not gonna use this, but yeah, so we can get rid of that. We're gonna use an actual whip. This is all waterproof and whatnot. Alrighty then, so what we do is we slide that up in there like that. Make sure you do this with the power off. And we'll go ahead and screw that in like that. And so we're gonna put it right here because we do have this elbow fitting. So you can just unscrew that. But now we're gonna have to shorten this cable. So here's a little trick when you're doing this. First of all, we wanna go ahead and make sure we have everything the way we want it. So I'm gonna wanna, let's see. I want this to be right here, so I want to cut it right about there. Okay. So what we do is we actually take a PVC cutter, okay, and then we put it on the spot we want to cut, and we go ahead and ratchet it just to where it's barely touching. So I can see that it actually cut inside. Now I just spin it around, and now I'm cutting the outer part, not the inner part. Goes like that, and then I go ahead and release. Didn't touch my wires. And we just pull this out. All right, and then once we got that, all we gotta do now is we gotta go ahead and pop this back on. Now this is an elbow, so it does tend to get caught up, so it helps if you kind of just bend the tips a little bit like that. And when you put it in, you're gonna put it in at that angle. That way it just pops straight through like that. And I always pull a little bit extra out on one side. That way, if I messed up the cut, I have spare, because I can always cut it shorter. Can't cut it longer. Go ahead and chop that. We got our stuff hooked up, so you can see here line 1 goes here. Line 1 goes here, line 2 goes here. That's coming from your disconnect, so that's gonna power. And then up here, this will go to your indoor unit. Go ahead and put the ground on, which is the green wire. Line 1, which is number 1, we're gonna put our white blue wire. And basically, this is just matching what we did on the inside. And then again, make sure you get those forks under that metal square that's in there. All right, and then number 2 is going to be our black wire, our red-brown wire. That's going to go on number 3. Then we're going to put this plastic thing on. That's going to hold all the wires in place. Okay, so we got this part finished. So now we need to do our disconnect. That's all in there. Put our plastic cover back on. And we're going to put this in the off position. All right, so you can see my vacuum pump looks a lot different, and I'm running a hose directly into the unit. This actually creates a vacuum much faster. This is my micron gauge. We're shooting for under 500 microns. Please use a micron gauge. Don't use the gauges. The negative inches of mercury, it's just not accurate. Especially on these compound gauges. You can get a cheap one. I'll put links in below for Amazon. You can get a cheap one. It's worth it. You're saving thousands of dollars by doing it this way and doing it yourself. So anyway, but yeah, normally you'd have your yellow hose attached to your vacuum pump, and then either the red or the black attached to your unit. And then you can do it that way. It's much slower that way. Also, I've removed the Schrader core, which is this thing here. That's going to speed it up significantly. So I'll probably be able to pull this vacuum in like 5 minutes. Just keep in mind, for you, it's going to take much, much longer. I have all the high grade stuff. My vacuum pump is 8 CFM. So, you know, if you're getting something cheap for like $100, it's probably going to be like a 3 or a 4. But yeah, anyway, so we're going to go ahead and turn this thing on. And you're going to notice mine sounds a lot different. But you can see how fast I'm pulling. So just keep in mind, yours is going to take much longer. So we'll be back once this thing is pulled down under 500. But yeah, in the time that I'm talking, we're at 690, 600, 590. So yeah, it's really fast. And keep in mind, I have a professional grade vacuum pump, so it's gonna take a lot longer. But yeah, we're already at 300. Yeah, we'll be back once we're done with this. Alrighty then, so you can see here we're at 72 microns, which is really good. Now here's how you can test if there's a leak. If you can isolate, you want to close this valve here. That's isolating the vacuum pump. And you can see it's actually going down. So that's our true vacuum. So we're at 89 microns. So yeah, we're definitely where we need to be. So we can go ahead and turn this off. And now when you do this, you want to make sure you don't let any air into the system. Now I have it valved off, so that's how I'm able to turn off the pump. Okay, so if you have gauges, you're going to close these off so it isolates the unit, and then you'll open up these side, what do you call it, these side valves, which is what I'm going to do. And so our target goal on these micron gauge is to be below 500 microns, which we are well below. So it looks like it's a 3/16 will fit. Here we go. Yeah, they're totally metric. Alright, so we've just released the refrigerant. You want to make sure you open that up all the way, otherwise you'll have some issues. And you can see that our micron gauge is showing 0 because it's at pressure now. And we want to put our caps back on. Alright, and we can take this off because it has a Schrader. So yeah, a little bit of refrigerant squirt. That's what we call de minimis. So now what we need to do is we need to put our Schrader core back on. This is something that you probably won't have to deal with, but this is where I'm going to show you how I do it. We have this closed, so no refrigerant's going to shoot out of here when I take this off. Now this thing that I have on here is basically like a little, it's like an airlock, right? So we have it shut off right here, so nothing can get through, but from here to here there's air. What we're going to do is we're going to take this, which has our Schrader core attached to it. We're going to go ahead and slightly screw it on there like that so it leaks a little bit. We're going to pop this open so a little bit of refrigerant is going to leak out. And then we're going to tighten it. And the idea is that is pushing any air in that's trapped in between the valve and here, because we don't want to put air in our system. All right, so then we push that in and we screw it back in just like that, and that Schrader core will now seal. And if we now remember, there's going to be a little bit of air or a little bit of refrigerant in here, so it's going to shoot out, and you can see nothing else comes out. That's because we got our Schrader core back in place. All right, so now we need to put our cap on, tighten everything down, and then put the cover on, and we'll wipe off this oil. That's just compressor oil, so don't worry about it. A little bit will squirt around because it's been shipped. Okay, so we're ready to turn on our unit finally. Go ahead. Now I have the breaker off, but we're gonna pop this into the on position. All right, here's our breaker. Moment of truth, fingers crossed. All right, I heard a beep and the louver closed, so that's a good sign. So generally when you first turn these on, you're gonna hear a clicking noise on this outdoor unit, which is totally normal, so don't worry if it does that. That's just the EEV testing itself. So yeah, let's go ahead and turn it around and see what happens. So it comes with this nice little mount you can put your remote on. All right, so we're gonna turn it on for the first time. Here we go. All right, it's showing 77 degrees, that's good. Right now, it looks like it's in auto mode. I want heat, so I'm gonna push the mode. Snowflake is cooling, that's dehumidification, that's fan only, and that is heat. And I want my fan on auto. So now we gotta wait for it to heat up. So it's gonna go through a self-test mode, like it takes a while, especially your first time, so just be patient. All right, she's up and running. So nothing exploded, so far so good. So we're gonna let her run for a little bit. Just keep in mind there is a break-in period. So yeah, we're gonna let her run for a little bit. So we'll go ahead and clean up my mess, put away all my tools while it's running, and then we'll show you the temperature. So when it's in heat mode, the air coming out of here is gonna be super cold, and the air coming out on the inside should be Alrighty then, she is up and running. Because she is mounted on the wall, she is a little bit noisy, but I have it at 80 something degrees, so it's ramped up full blast. But you can see here, she is definitely heating. What's our max? 97.8 degrees. So yeah, that's how you install a mini split, and this is a Tosot mini split, 12,000 BTU, 240 volt or 230, 240. As you can see, there's a lot to it. So if you want to do this yourself, be prepared. It is a bear. General time will usually take anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, just depending on the difficulty of the installation. Obviously, if you're not filming it, it'll go pretty quick. Took me about pretty much all day. I started kind of late though. I started at like 1 o'clock, and the time now is about 9. So it took me about 8 hours to do this thing, but that's because I had to film and I forgot some stuff, so I had to go back and grab it. So anyway, that's how you install a mini split, the Tosot mini split. This is a 12,000 BTU, 230 volt. And they make them of all sizes, and they even have multi-head ones if you want to tackle that much. But yeah, they have a whole array, and then they also have 110 volts or 110, 120, and they have 230, 240. So, but yeah, 230 is going to be a little bit more efficient. Higher the voltage, less the current uses. That's just how it is. But yeah, anyway, hopefully this helps you out. So thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, comment, tell me what a horrible technician I am. Hit that bell notification and follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, click on the link below, buy yours through my link. If you want to buy some tools, check out my tool store on Amazon. And if you want some really awesome socks, which you could use for work or for hiking or whatever, make sure you pick those Camel City Mill work socks. Also, support Out of the Box Arts. All the links are in the description below. Thanks for watching.